Hello, I'm Alison, and I'm here today with Mr. Harald Mueller, who was Commodore in 1998 and 1999 and has driven in all the way from Sutton to be here with us today. Thank you for coming.
Pleasure. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your background with the club. When did you first join?
I first joined in 1959. I was 12 years old, and I became a junior member, and then when I turned 18 I qualified as an intermediate, and a couple of years thereafter I finally was a senior, and it brings us to the present day.
And did you participate in any of the club's activities for kids when you joined? Were you in junior sailing?
I was not in junior sailing, but I crewed for people, and I did a lot of racing, and crew was always in demand, and I got a lot of hours under my belt that way, and sailed since then.
And are you still a sailor now?
Less so. We sold our boat that we had for 40 years or so, and I'm concentrating more on the garden at the moment, but we still come to the club and we feel very much at home here.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
What were your favorite things about the club when you were a kid?
Well, I grew up not very far from here, and I could hop on my bicycle and just come down, and there was always somebody looking for a crew, and I enjoyed that. And the thing that I really enjoyed about the club is you meet people from many different walks of life that you would never meet, I don't think, in another environment. So.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Have you been so you've been a sailor? You've never had a powerboat?
I never had a powerboat, no.
Okay.
In fact, for many years I didn't have any boat at all.
Okay.
And I had never had a long-term intention to buy a boat. And there was plenty of opportunity to sail with other people. And but then, it's a long story, but anyway, we got into getting a boat and subsequently got a bigger one, and it's been great for us. You know, so.
And did you do any cruising on the boat? Like, did you take any trips on it, or?
Well, the cruising boat was great for my three sons and for us. And we went, I figured it out the other day, we went to Thousand Islands 21 times.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, we did a lot of cruising. And then we cruised Lake Ontario quite a bit. And we took one trip with our boat south as far as the Bahamas. And so, yes, I'd say we did a lot of cruising with our boat. So.
Wow. That's a lot of miles under the keel.
A lot of miles, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you were Commodore in 1998 and 1999. What do you remember the most about your time volunteering in the club?
Well, that era, 1998, 1999, well, they were tough economic times, you know, and I think the worst part of the recession was 2 years before I became Commodore. And then we were right in the thick of it, you know. So we had to do a lot of penny pinching and just to stay alert, you know, stay alive, as it were. But we came through it all right, and yeah, here we are today. But things are much more, how should I put it, much more opulent, if you want to put it that way, today than they were in those 2 years. So
that, did you lose members because of the recession, do you think, or?
I think so, but it doesn't show itself that quickly. As I say, the bulk of the recession, or whatever, the bulk of the recession was in 1996, and we really only felt the after effects by 1998 or whatever. And you know, people obviously were frustrated, you know, and I think some people held on as long as they could, but then they had no choice but to give it up, you know. It really was a bit of a luxury. So.
Yeah. What was the club like while you were Commodore? Was it more power, more sail? Was racing strong?
Racing has been on a decline, I think, for 20 years, 30 years, or whatever. And there's always a question. I mean, at one time, the previous executive had put in limits on the amount of powerboats that could be in the club. Well, if we'd stayed with that, I mean, the club would have gone out of existence. So we had to react to changing times, and I think it was about half and half in those days, and nowadays I think there are probably more powerboats than sailboats.
It's actually pretty even, still even
Oh, yeah?
today, yeah. I think it's almost identical numbers of powerboats and sailboats.
I'm surprised. Yeah.
According to the last survey,
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah.
Well, there you have it then. But certainly in my tenure as Commodore, there was always this discussion, it's like, what's more important? And I mean, are you a powerboater or are you a sailor or whatever? So we tried as much as possible to try to merge the two, because that's the only way it was going to stay a club, And yeah, that's what we tried to do, is we tried to get everybody to start using the term a yacht. A yacht is a pleasure boat, basically, and so
That's a good idea.
well, it took away the barbs. I mean, you have a pleasure boat, okay, you have a pleasure boat. Whether it's power or sail is really not that important, as long as you're having fun with it. So,
Exactly, yeah, as long as you're getting out there.
yeah.
Or even if you don't have a boat and still enjoying the club.
Well, as I say, I was one of those people for many years. I think 20 odd years before I got a boat. So,
What do you feel like was your biggest accomplishment during your term?
I think we got the sailors and the race and the powerboaters a little closer together, and we made it pretty clear that really we weren't going to live with this distinction, but it's tough. I think the powerboaters tended to want more fancy facilities or more stable facilities. The sailors, certainly in my early years, would come to the club, wouldn't stay very long and go. They would be using their boats. The powerboaters tended to, I think, maybe it's unfair, but let's say people came and used the boat as almost a cottage. I mean, you come on a weekend and no boats would leave the harbor, but people are just sitting and relaxing on their boats or whatever. Nothing wrong with sitting and relaxing.
That's pretty much what I do.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I should have checked first.
No, it's really nice. You can walk up to the boat, walk back down, have dinner, go back to the boat. It's pretty spectacular.
Well,
I'm 20 minutes from home.
Yeah,
So.
that's great. Yeah, good.
Yeah. So you tried to get the powerboaters and the sailboaters a little bit tighter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And stop the nonsense calls about we're more important here or somebody's more important there. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think we were reasonably successful. I think the other thing is the club was quite unwieldy. We had a fairly large executive, and we managed to trim it down quite a bit. And the people that stayed, there were certain posts we didn't renew. The people that stayed thought, this is great, now somebody's listening to me. We didn't have 15 people to walk around the table. Now I think they've solved it a different way nowadays, because they pick on just a handful of portfolios that are discussed at each executive meeting. But I thought we managed to get it pretty comfortable, let's put it that way. So,
Is there anything that you would have done differently with hindsight?
We may have taken a few actions more quickly. We were convinced things were right, especially when the club was at its ebb, let's say. But whenever we would talk about a new project or something like that, we got an awful lot of support, and more than we were afraid of we would get. And I did not explain that very well. There were things we thought would be very uprooting or whatever, and never was the case. As long as you took the decision, people were quite happy to follow it. Case in point, the room at the other end of the building here was a centennial project, and the idea was always that that room would be reserved for members only. Well, members didn't use that room enough to make it worthwhile. You know, in other words, it was definitely used if there was a regatta evening or what have you. But when we opted to use it, to open the door into the room and use it more for general purposes, everybody was quite happy, you know. So and we agonized over that for a long period, whether we should use that or not, you know. So just little things which we thought might offend some people never really happened once we explained it, you know.
That's great. So you had a really supportive membership.
I would say we did, yeah. I mean, with a few exceptions, which I won't name, but
Yeah.
but yes, we did.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So would you be Commodore again? Is it something you or are you happy to have it behind you?
Well, it would be impractical for me. I used to live 10 minutes away from here. You know, now I live 2 hours away or whatever. And the experiences, I think a lot of people should get a crack at it, you know. It's a good question, but I'm not chomping at the bit or whatever.
Okay. What do you think is the best thing about the club?
Well, it appeals to a lot of different interests, I think, you know, and you get to meet people in different walks of life that you never would have, at least I would never have met them, I don't think, you know. I mean, you sort of lived in fairly small circles, either family or work, if you've been at that same location for a while. So, I mean, there are people I know I would never have met. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I've run out of questions.
Okay. I told you everything, yeah.